Megalodon is the largest shark that ever lived, a mouth with a body attached. You know how regular sharks are already terrifying because they're basically a nightmare with a GPS tracker? Megalodon was that, except it could swallow a small car and not even notice. We're talking a 60-foot, 60-ton torpedo of muscle and teeth cruising through prehistoric oceans like a gangster nobody dared to mess with. Scientists think it could bite down with over 40,000 pounds of force. 40,000. That's not bite you in half. That's compress your entire existence into 2 regrettable seconds and a red mist. Its teeth, 6 inches long, serrated. Little fossilized daggers scattered across the ocean floor, like it's been dropping spare ammo for future generations. People like to imagine them chasing whales, but I think Megalodon didn't chase anything. It just appeared. You're swimming along, minding your business, and suddenly the light disappears because a living battleship is blocking the sun. If sharks today look dead in the eyes, Megalodon's eyes probably looked like an accountant's, cold, bored, and calculating whether you were worth the effort. Spoiler, you were. You were always worth the effort. Mosasaurus is a prehistoric marine reptile that looked at dinosaur and crocodile and said, yes, both, please. This thing was 40 to 50 feet of raw get-out-of-the-water energy. Not a fish, not quite a dinosaur, but a sea monster in the biblical sense. Imagine a Komodo dragon, except it traded legs for flippers and lived its entire life in a liquid buffet. It had a double-hinged jaw, meaning it could open its mouth so wide you could park your trauma inside it. Its teeth weren't just sharp, they were recurved. So if it bit you, congratulations, you were already inside the return chute. If you've ever seen Jurassic World, you know it's the thing that ate a great white shark like it was popcorn. And while that scene is fun, reality was worse. Mosasaurus lived in oceans teeming with giant prey, turtles the size of dining tables, squid that could strangle you, other mosasaurs. Cannibalism? Absolutely. You don't get that big without sometimes eating your cousin. The fossil record even shows bite marks from other mosasaurs on mosasaur bones. They weren't just predators, they were paranoid, psychopathic predators, killing anything big enough to look them in the eye. Therizinosaurus is a giant herbivorous dinosaur with claws longer than your forearm. There is something deeply unsettling about a creature that looks like it should be in a slasher film, but eats salad. 12-meter-long dinosaur, walking through Cretaceous forests with claws that could open you like a letter, but instead of hunting, it used them to pull down branches, rake leaves toward its beak, and casually ruin the mental health of anything watching. It had a potbelly, a small head, and feathers. Yes, feathers. Picture a nightmare turkey that skipped leg day, but invested heavily in the Edward Scissorhands skill tree. What kills me is that paleontologists used to think it was a carnivore because of those claws. They thought it was an apex predator. Nope, just a vegan with murder hands, which makes it worse. Because if it ever did decide to attack you, maybe you annoyed it. Maybe you were standing between it and a particularly tasty fern. You wouldn't get away. It wouldn't even eat you. You'd just be a pile of regret on the forest floor. Fertilizer for the plants it actually wanted. Megalania is the largest terrestrial lizard to have ever existed, a land dragon without the fire. Imagine an Australian monitor lizard, already a scary thing, blown up to the size of a delivery van. 20-plus feet of muscle, scales, and bad intentions. It lived during the Pleistocene, which means humans might have actually met this thing. Picture being some prehistoric hunter, crouching in the bushes, and realizing the bush is breathing. Its bite likely carried venom, like modern Komodo dragons, which means you wouldn't just die, you'd rot from the inside while it followed you at a casual pace, like a reptilian debt collector. And here's the part that's deliciously awful. We don't know exactly when it went extinct. Some estimates put it as recently as 50,000 years ago. That's nothing in evolutionary time. There's even Aboriginal rock art that some think might depict Megalania, which means your ancestors might have had a don't go near the big lizard rock rule for very practical reasons. Honestly, the only comfort we have is that Australia today is already full of things trying to kill you, so maybe it wouldn't have made much difference. Deinosuchus is an ancient crocodilian so absurdly big it could have ended Jurassic Park in the opening credits. Picture a modern saltwater crocodile, already a perfect murder machine, and then crank it up to around 35 feet long, with a bite force strong enough to turn a dinosaur's ribcage into abstract art. This wasn't wait by the river and eat fish big. This was ambush a hadrosaur and drag it screaming into the swamp big. Fossils show bite marks on dinosaur bones that match Deinosuchus perfectly. Imagine that moment. a multi-ton dinosaur wandering to the water's edge for a drink, only for the water to grab it back. The thing about crocodiles is they don't age like other animals. They just keep growing if they have enough food. Now give that evolutionary cheat code a few million years of practice, and you get a reptile that could lurk underwater for over an hour before launching an attack. And it wasn't ugly either. Its armor-plated back probably glistened in the sun like wet stone. The last thing you'd see before being yanked under was a row of bony ridges cutting across the water toward you, silent as guilt, and then darkness. Dunkleosteus is a prehistoric fish that proves jaws are overrated. You can just have an armored guillotine for a face. This thing swam the Devonian seas 358 million years ago, reaching up to 30 feet long, covered in bony plates like a medieval knight who skipped the horse. It didn't have teeth. Instead, it had sharpened bony plates that acted like self-sharpening shears. These plates could bite with a force of over 8,000 pounds, enough to cleave through armored prey like ammonites, other fish, or your sanity. And it could open its mouth in a fraction of a second, creating a suction that just vacuumed victims inside. Its head was 1/3 of its body length. Imagine meeting a fish where the conversation is already 90%. Which part of you do I eat first? It couldn't chew, so it would just bite chunks out of prey and swallow them whole. Dunkleosteus wasn't a hunter in the normal sense. It was a walking, swimming inevitability. And because its armor fossilized so well, we have an unsettlingly clear picture of what it looked like. You can stare right into the fossil skull today and still hear the Devonian Ocean saying, "Yeah, you'd be dead by now." Quetzalcoatlus is a pterosaur so big, it makes airplanes nervous. Wingspan? 35 feet, roughly the size of a small Cessna. Weight? Over 500 pounds of hollow-boned arrogance. It didn't flap much. It just glided across the sky like a shadow looking for trouble. Paleontologists think it could stalk prey on land like a stork, meaning you could be walking and suddenly realize the shadow following you isn't a cloud. Its long, spear-like beak was perfect for stabbing small dinosaurs, fish, or anything else foolish enough to move. Here's the nightmare detail. It probably hunted on the ground more than in the air. That's right, this thing could just walk up to you. Imagine being a tiny Cretaceous mammal, popping your head out of a burrow, and instantly being turned into a kebab by a flying murder javelin. And yes, its name comes from the Aztec feathered serpent god, which feels less like homage and more like a confession. The skies didn't belong to birds back then. They belonged to something that could land, fold its wings, and still be taller than you. Anomalocaris is a Cambrian predator that proves early life was just pure experimental horror. It lived over 500 million years ago, when most creatures were still figuring out up and down. At around 3 feet long, it was enormous for its time, basically a leviathan in a world of jelly beans. Its body looked like a shrimp, a centipede, and a nightmare took turns designing it. 2 long, spiny appendages reached out from its face to grab prey, dragging them toward a circular, pineapple slicer mouth filled with hardened plates. And here's the part that's genuinely creepy. It probably had compound eyes with incredible vision for its era. So while most of its contemporaries were blind or half-blind blobs, Anomalocaris could see you. In a world where every other organism is just floating around hoping not to get eaten, this thing was actively hunting. Some scientists think it fed on trilobites, the armored Roombas of the Cambrian, by prying them open like cans. And because the Cambrian Ocean was alien-looking to begin with, Anomalocaris ends up feeling less like an ancestor of modern animals and more like something that still lives somewhere deep, where we just haven't looked yet.